What is up, guys? Eric here from Real Film Reviews, bringing you another movie review, this time for the new Jamie Lee Curtis film, Halloween. Halloween is directed by David Gordon Green, stars Jamie Lee Curtis and Judy Greer, and is a direct sequel to the original Halloween film. Every other Halloween movie that has come out since the first one does not matter. They're not canon. They don't belong with this movie. This film is a direct sequel to the original, and it tells the story of Michael Myers being moved from sort of the mental health institution that he's in to more of a prison-esque place, but upon moving him, the bus crashes, he escapes, and then of course Jamie Lee Curtis is reprising her role as the character she was in the very first one, and she is now this very well-trained, wanting to kill Michael Myers' grandmother, who has decided that since he has escaped, it is her job to hunt him down and to end this once and for all. This movie is a massive love letter to the original Halloween and to classic horror films that fit in that slasher genre. Halloween 1 is arguably the greatest slasher movie ever made, and I think because of that, this one is a worthy successor to it. None of the other Halloween movies I've heard are very good. I've only ever seen the original because it's the only one I've ever heard is any good. So this one I feel was a worthy successor to it. It has that classic aura of what a good slasher movie should be. Michael Myers feels threatening, he feels intimidating, he's as cold-blooded as he has ever been, and because of that, this movie moves what was originally this slasher from back in the day into the modern era by changing certain aspects of it. This isn't some PG-13 reboot, this is a rated R sequel with actual modern day rated R horror film deaths. Jamie Lee Curtis comes back as this badass grandma who wants to kill Michael Myers. She's lived her whole life basically in fear of what could happen if he ever escaped because he was still alive, and now that he's out, she has to be the one to bring him down, and I absolutely loved her in this movie. For her age, Jamie Lee Curtis still did an amazing job with the action sequences in this film, which really surprised me because that was the one thing that I was a little iffy on, was I didn't know if it would be believable, but it very much so was. There's no point where she's like going over the top with who she is. She very much is fitted into that role and she plays it perfectly. And then this movie is written by David Gordon Green and Danny McBride, like Danny McBride from like Pineapple Express and This Is the End and things like that. He is obviously, they're both actually very much in the comedy realm, but they made an extremely well-written horror film. There are issues that I'll get to later, but overall, this is an extremely well-written Halloween film, and I think that they were able to bring a lot of modern elements into this series that, besides the first one, has kind of lost all of its respect. And I think that because of that, they're bringing that respect back to this series because it's just such a love letter to the first. There are so many scenes that are basically direct copies of those scenes from the first, but they're used in a completely different way in this film. They have a twist added to them, which I think is very important because it doesn't want to feel like we're just watching Halloween 1 again, but somehow it's a little changed because Jamie Lee Curtis is old now. Instead, they take this film and they take some of those specific iconic moments from the original and then they kind of just turn them on their head a little bit to make it so they fit into this newer rendition of the film. And then David Gordon Green, who, as I said, comes from the realm of comedy, directed this movie so well. It is very cinematic and it's very clean cut. And I have to say, the final 20 minutes of this film, like the big finale climax of this movie, is awesome. It's genuinely just awesome. I was super invested in it at that point. I loved all of the sort of creepy, suspenseful moments where you don't know what's going to happen next and you think that there's going to be those really generic jump scares, and then sometimes there are and sometimes they aren't, but it keeps you guessing. It doesn't fully just rely on jump scares. It relies on building an aura that makes you feel suspense. I do have two issues with the film though. The first one is one that I can't really say much about because it's a pretty big spoiler if I do, but all I will say is there is a character in this movie that I feel its only purpose is to be a plot device at a certain point, and once that plot device is used, the character is then useless yet again, just as they were before the plot device. And I didn't enjoy the character really at any point in the film. They serve a purpose in one scene, and then after that, for some reason, they are continually in the film until they are that plot device. And I felt like this character just felt very out of place and didn't need to be there, and could have very easily have just been taken away and been replaced with something else or nothing else. Because if this character wasn't here, it really wouldn't have changed that much about the movie, but they just felt so odd in the plot of the film, and I really didn't like them. And then my other thing isn't really so much an issue, it's more just the film itself is a slasher movie, so I can't justify giving this movie an exceptionally high grade because there isn't a ton to it. There's nothing, that impressive about the gore or the action or anything like that. It's just a well-made, fun slasher movie, and that's all I wanted it to be. I had a good time when I went and saw this movie with my friends. I'm gonna give Halloween a C+. As I said, I had a lot of fun seeing this movie, but there isn't a ton of depth to it. It's an old school slasher movie in the modern era, and I think that it worked really, really well, and I had a ton of fun with it. If you need a movie to go see with your friends for Halloween, this is the one to go see because it's really well made and it's just a good time. Well guys, as always, I'm Eric. If you enjoyed this video, please do like, subscribe, comment down below what you thought of Halloween, share everything we do here on Real Film Reviews, and I hope to see you guys later.